Back with more right here of the Island Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Bob Pompeani and Gene Collier with you. Give us a shout at 412-575-2600. Artie Burns was late to a walkthrough practice, and as a result, he did not play defense yesterday. He was on the field for special teams, but that's not how you try to get yourself. He had, by all accounts, a pretty good week of practice. Thought he was going to start yesterday, and he never got on the field. So, Gene, what do they do moving forward here with regard to that other corner spot? Is it, sensible? Is it Cam Sutton? Is it Artie Burns?
Yeah, well,
or a committee?
They got a pretty good game out of Sansibaugh. I still think Artie Burns can be a productive player. I mean, I'm not willing to quit on him. I think he has great physical talent. I don't know what was up with Saturday. I mean, that's really inexcusable, and I'm sure that's part of why he didn't play. But the other part is that he hasn't been very good. And not as good as he's shown that he can be. So, I'm still patient with Artie Burns.
Patience is a good word, because you have to be, I guess, at this point. Those guys, you don't have much there other than what you have. Sensibaugh played very well, I thought, yesterday. Cam Sutton came in at okay, too, so it was good to get Morgan Burnett back as well. Meantime, Penguins back in action. What do you think about 4-game sweep of the road trip? That's pretty impressive, regardless of who the competition
really
is.
Tremendous in Canada. Not just winning every game, not just getting the maximum of points, but really pounding people. So they must be pretty good. Maybe I'll go to a game here, Bob, one of these months.
Yes, you're going to like November hockey coming up, even though there's still October hockey left. You should get over there, Gene. Sidney Crosby, #1 star of the week. He had some unbelievable backhands. There's no better player in the game when it comes to backhands. And just stick work down low, the way he plays, it's incredible. We are fortunate enough in this market to watch him every single night. You should never lose sight of that. Guys like Malkin and all the elite players. All right, let's go out to Marilyn, who joins us in Munhall. Hey, Marilyn.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I was wondering, with the firing of the Cleveland coach and Haley, how this will affect the development of their quarterback, Mayfield.
Well, it depends who, it takes over in terms of, I think he had a good relationship with Todd Haley. He seemed to like him, but that doesn't exist anymore. So that's a good question, too, because, this is a primo player. I think he's going to be a good quarterback in the league. He shows a lot of moxie and confidence, Gene, but it takes time, and it's not easy first year in the league.
That's the exact word that Mike Tomlin used at his Tuesday press conference. He thought
what?
Mayfield had moxie.
Moxie?
Yeah, or what have you, he said. But yeah, I mean, Maryland, this is the biggest question in Cleveland. Who can come in there and make sure that Baker Mayfield develops? They may have it in-house. Well, they may decide to blow the whole thing up again. They're very good at blowing the whole thing up in Cleveland. And, it hasn't really served them well. But I was surprised, I don't know if you were, Bob, that Hugh Jackson lasted as long as he did. I mean, I think an 0-16 in today's NFL is...
yeah, but he got a vote of confidence by Jim Haslam last year. They had a chance to do something, they chose not to.
That's one thing you never want, is a vote of confidence.
Yeah, it didn't take long this year. Let's go back to the lines. We have Brad in Duncansville. Hello, Brad.
Hi, Bob. Hi, Gene.
Hi, Brad.
How are you, Brad?
Good. How are you?
All right. What's up?
I have 2 points. I would trade Le'Veon Bell and a first-round pick for that corner from Arizona Cardinals.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen, just for a lot of reasons involved in the franchise tag, but go ahead.
And also I wanted to tell you that this Friday I'm going to Special Olympics for Villanova for bocce, and I've never been to Villanova.
Oh, good. Well, congratulations.
Yeah,
we hope
good.
you do well and bring home a gold, okay?
Absolutely. Congratulations.
Yeah, and also I'm going to get my score for the Steelers game if I can.
All right. Thanks, Brad.
I'm going to say 24-17 Pittsburgh.
That'll be a tough game down in Baltimore. They're kind of desperate. But thanks, and we wish you all the best in Special Olympics. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. What about Le'Veon Bell? I would imagine he's going to come in at some point here after the trade deadline goes. What do you do with your rotation of running backs? I think it's as it is. I think it's James Conner's job now, and Le'Veon has to deal with that.
Yeah, that's the way it seems, although, it's not like bringing in an undrafted free agent at that salary. I mean, if you're going to pay somebody $900,000 for the Sunday game, I think he's going to play. But, the dynamic has changed. You're right about that. What never changes, though, is our willingness to talk about Le'Veon Bell even though he's not here.
I agree with that. You know, here's the thing. I look at it as an insurance policy, actually. Yeah. I don't think first of all, he probably doesn't want to play in terms of, you know, his whole thing is I want to get my body ready for free agency and don't put it at risk. Okay, fine. Then you sit on the bench and you become Stephen Ridley, and Stephen Ridley becomes inactive to me. And, you know, James Conner gets better as the game goes on. So does Le'Veon Bell, Gene. So somebody has to play a lot for that to happen. You can't just rotate guys. And while I think Mike Tomlin really likes Le'Veon Bell, I think he really likes James Conner too. So it's a nice situation to have in case somebody gets hurt.
Not until he gets here.
But you think he will get here, right?
I don't know.
What do you like less talking about, October hockey or Le'Veon Bell?
Le'Veon Bell.
Wow, that's saying something.
Yeah.
Let's go out to Donald in Presto. Hey, Don, how are you?
Good, thank you. Nice to talk to you, Bob and Jane.
Hey.
I just want to bring up Larry Fitzgerald. He did a fantastic thing, I think, this weekend. First of all, the way he talked about Pittsburgh and the events of this weekend, it was phenomenal. And also apologizing for his first end zone celebration, which is unheard of in this day and age. I just think he's a wonderful role model for our children.
No doubt. He's one of the greats of the game, and it's great that he was here in Pittsburgh and really knows a lot about Pittsburgh. And he immediately came out and talked about how he felt from the heart with what happened tragically in Squirrel Hill.
Yeah, Larry's, you're right, someone who should be emulated because he always seems to know the right thing to do, the right thing to say. He's a great example to young players and to all of us, really. Let's
go to Johnstown. We got Peter. Hey, Peter, how are you?
Hi, Bob. Thanks, and Gene, thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
I want to talk a little about the Browns. Actually, yeah, it's to me, it's hard to watch that franchise struggle so much. They've had so little success since they returned to the NFL. Of course, I'm a Steelers fan first, but I do kind of like the Browns as well. And it's obviously the rivalry's better if the Browns are good. So my question is. Do either of you have any suggestions as who you think would be a good next coach for the Browns? I know there are a lot of people available, but I wondered if either of you had any ideas as to who you think would be a good next coach for them.
Good question. Gene, who do you think?
Well, I haven't thought about it at all. I mean, I don't know what kind of season Randy Fichtner is going to have here as offensive coordinator. He's a Cleveland native. I don't know how that plays into it, but just by way of confession, I have not thought about that at all.
We had that question today on the radio. Ron Cook said Urban Meyer, which might be an interesting choice since he's from that area at Ohio State, and maybe the welcome mat is not as full of willingness as it was when he first got there. But how about I mentioned Bill Cowher as a possibility. I don't think he'll ever take the job, but if you're Cleveland, why wouldn't you ask? You know, they gave Gruden $100 million. Would that motivate if they're going to go that direction? Would they do that? Would you do? How about Nick Saban? He also spent time in Cleveland as an assistant under Bill Belichick. What do you think about those guys?
Well, I don't know. Nick Saban has kind of proven that he's not successful in the NFL. Bill Cowher, I don't think, is ever going to coach again. But I'll agree with the premise to this extent. I mean, I would like to see the Browns be a lot better. I do. I think they have great fans. They have a great stadium. Great atmosphere for a game, and if they were good, it would make a Steelers season a lot more entertaining.
Fred, as we go to Twitter before we go to break, says, did Greg Williams put a bounty on Coach Todd? Might have. We'll take a break on that note. Come back with more right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. It's the Bordas and Bordas Hotline, Pittsburgh CW.